Oh. Ay, 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 ay. Okay, I have a confession to make. I staged that whole thing, but it was a staged reproduction of what actually happened here just a while ago. I had to stage it because, fortunately for me, the camera wasn't set up and you didn't get to see what actually happened. Unfortunately for you, the camera wasn't set up and you didn't get to see what actually happened. I was walking up over there, and just right over the right there, I ran into a yellowjacket nest, and they're still not very happy, so we'll leave them alone. I only got stung once, which is enough. Fortunately, I'm not allergic to them. It just hurts for a little while, then it goes away. After a few days of itching, of course. But this reminds me of one of the things we have to deal with out in the woods, and that's yellowjackets. When you're out in the woods, there are potential dangers to be aware of. And one of those dangers can be the wildlife. When most people think of dangerous animals, they probably think of the larger predators, cougars, bears, wolves, even smaller things like rattlesnakes. But with all the time I've spent out in the woods, I've found it's the really small things you're more likely to get in trouble with. And most likely, stinging insects, bees, wasps, hornets, although you're less likely to get into trouble with bees. It's the hornets and the wasps that have the bad attitudes. Bees are just the ones that always take the blame for it. But I've found when people are being threatened or attacked, they don't put a whole lot of concern into identifying the species. I've never seen someone go, "Ah, a social ground-dwelling predatory wasp is after me." No, we just yell, "Bees!" It's a single syllable word. It's quick, it's easy, but it's usually not bees. It's usually wasps or hornets. They're the ones with the bad attitudes. And the ones that have the worst attitudes of them all, the yellowjackets. Yellowjackets are a type of wasp, not to be confused with the type of wasps that build their nests up under their eaves. Those type actually have decent attitudes. Most of the time I just let them be. You really have to get up in their business and irritate them before they sting you. And even then, they'll put up with a lot sometimes before they sting. One of the things that makes yellowjackets particularly dangerous is it's hard to see their nest because they build them underground. A lot of times you don't even know they're there until you're standing on top of them. And when that happens, they really get bent out of shape. They fly up out of the ground, they don't ask questions, they don't give you a trial, they just pull their stingers out and start going to town on you. That happens when you are most likely just walking along, minding your own business, and happen to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. For as much time as I've spent out in the woods, I've actually been very lucky with these. I've run into them many times, but usually I only get stung once or twice, partly because it usually only happens early in the season. Over the winter when they're hibernating, I forget all about them and I drop my guard. Then early in the season when their populations are low, I'll run into one of those things will fly out of there and give me a quick painful reminder of their existence. I've been reminded of their existence so many times, I've gotten to where I'm so aware of them, I'll see their nests before I even get to them. The way I know there's a nest is I'll see a spot where I'll see a curious stream of air traffic flying in and out of the ground. Sometimes I'll even see them out of the corner of my eye. That's how aware I am of them. Although there may be a fine line between awareness and paranoia. I'm not sure which side of that line I sit on. When I see that stream of air traffic, I know to avoid that spot and leave them alone. Or throw rocks and sticks at them from a distance to make them mad. No, I wouldn't do that. If you really want to make them mad, try accidentally digging up one of their nests with a dozer blade or any piece of equipment. When that happens, it's going to be an all-out air attack. They will very aggressively defend their nest. But fortunately, they're not very smart. They don't know to go after that soft, fleshy thing sitting in the operator's seat. Instead, they start attacking the machine. When you sting a steel machine, it doesn't accomplish anything. All it does is dulls your stinger. When that happens, you get one bug down while it has to sit down, pull out its file, and resharpen its stinger. Actually, they don't really do that. They take them into the saw shop and have them professionally sharpened. Then there's my cousin Chuck. He wasn't always so lucky. If there's any family watching, I'm talking about Donnie. Family called him Donnie, he preferred Chuck. He just had a way of getting himself into trouble with these things. I don't know how many times I saw him do the bee dance. We'll get into the bee dance here in a minute. One of the first times I remember, we were just kids. Our grandparents took us over to Eastern Oregon. He found a big ball of something in the middle of a sagebrush. He got down to take a closer look at it. Before he could get the words out, "What is that?" a big bald-faced hornet flew out and explained to him what that was. Right on the forehead. He got hornet-splained. Another time we were at the place where I grew up. Behind our back fence was an irrigation ditch. In between there were some blackberries. We were back there one day just eating blackberries. Cop, 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 cop. I was here, he was over here. All of a sudden, I noticed a stream of air traffic flying up out of the ground in between us. As I turned to run, I was thinking, I need to yell bees to warn him of what's going on. But I have so much energy going into getting away, the words just wasn't coming out. Bees! It wasn't until I was away that the word bees finally came out. That's my side of the story. His side of the story is, here's this jerk who's supposed to be my friend, and when we're in danger, he gets himself out of danger, then he warns me what's going on. I tried to explain to him what I just told you. I'm not sure if he fully believed me, but he may have gave me the benefit of the doubt. Another time we were fishing in a small creek. I was on one side, he was on the other. He was standing on a rock that was sticking out of a steep bank. At one point I looked over there and I saw air traffic flying out of the ground right about where he was standing. Before I could get a chance to warn him about what was going on, I noticed he was starting to do the bee dance. He already knew what was going on. I think he got stung 8 or 10 times. That was the end of fishing for him for that day. That little incident changed his attitude for the rest of the day. I don't know how many times I got to see him do the bee dance. When the human body experiences trauma, it tends to go into a fight or flight response. The bee dance is a result of the body trying to go into fight and flight at the same time, which it does not do well. The fight part usually materializes in a swatting motion, trying to swat the insects away either because they're stinging you or trying to swat them out of the air. The flight part is to run away. But with so much energy being put into the fight part, the flight part doesn't fully materialize. The feet start moving, but not to a point to where they actually propel you anywhere. It ends up looking something like this. That usually goes on for a few seconds until the conscious mind kicks in, and then you realize, oh yeah, I need to actually run. Then they run a distance, stop, notice the Yellowjackets have followed them, run a little more until they finally get away from them. I can't say that I haven't done the bee dance a few times myself. A lot of people say Yellowjackets have no purpose, they don't make honey, they're not good for anything. But I can't tell you how many times I've been out in the garden and I've noticed Yellowjackets attacking garden pests. They are good predators, but they have bad attitudes. But most of the time, if you get stung by a Yellowjacket, it's because you disturbed its nest. Whenever you're outdoors, always be careful. Watch out for the nests of Yellowjackets and other stinging insects. If you do run into them, make sure you let people know of the danger so they can get themselves out of danger. If you see someone getting stung, of course you want to help them if you can, but a lot of times there's not much you can do. In that case, you might as well observe. Make sure you listen carefully because you might hear some interesting new word combinations that you've never heard before. If there are young children around, you might want to cover their ears. Make sure you watch because if you're lucky, you might get to see the bee dance.